Michael, welcome. Nice to have you in person and in the studio.
I'm glad to be here, David.
So tell us about this book. It sounds like the title pretty much sums it all up.
Well, it does, you know. First of all, the fast developing economies and the political power of Asia is a big story. Some have said it's the biggest story of the 21st century. I'd say it's a little too early to make that call, but the other part about the title is that the rivals, of course, China, India, and Japan, aren't just our rivals, they're each other's rivals, too. Asia now has three great superpowers that don't like each other one bit. This book is about the dangerous power struggle between China, Japan, and India.
Okay, we've got a lot to talk about, but let's start with the author. Who is he?
Well, his name is Bill Emmott. He was a journalist at The Economist for 26 years and, in fact, was the editor of this venerable magazine for about a dozen years. If you like reading The Economist, you'll enjoy reading this book because, no surprise, the style is identical. There are lots of economic statistics and charts, and it's written in that very sober, serious economist way. The analysis isn't written around, you know, grabby anecdotes or news stories the way that Time and Newsweek does it.
Okay, so give me an analysis of his, how he sees these three rivals.
Well, you know, there are big economic and social changes going on in China, India, and Japan, but it's all against the background of, you know, very violent relations between the three. There's a long history of exploitation and war. China and India are still fighting over their border. Japan occupied and ruled most of China and Korea in a very brutal fashion until the end of the Second World War. The rape of Nanking by the Japanese army is something the Chinese will never forget. When the author was interviewing a top Japanese government official about the bad relations between Japan and China, the official said, well, that's no surprise. They've hated us for 1,000 years and we've hated them.
Wow, so I know this is asking you to simplify greatly, but which of these rivals is winning?
Well, in the best journalistic tradition, the book says only time will tell. China is on the move. This year, China no doubt will pass Germany to become the world's third largest economy. India, within 10 years, will be a larger economy than its old colonial master, Great Britain. And Japan, of course, was the Asian superpower of the 20th century and is still the second largest economy in the world.
So those are the positives. What about the negatives?
China is certainly not a democracy, and usually a democracy is a necessity for a healthy market economy. And of course, China has horrible environmental issues. India, the downside, is the weakness in its education and infrastructure and the quality of government. Japan, well, I mean, it's the most advanced economy in Asia technically, but it also has the oldest population and is basically a closed society and a closed economy.
So is the author Emmott, is he optimistic about this or more pessimistic?
Well, we must all be optimistic, and I'd say Emmott is. He lists all the flashpoints where wars could break out. Now, Tibet, of course, is one. North Korea, Taiwan. China could, you know, have a land grab over any of those, the way that the Japanese did in Asia in the last century. So Emmott hopes that India, China, and Japan will be more or less equal rivals for some time to come and kind of balance each other off.
So who is this book for? Who should read it?
I think anyone who takes an interest in what's happening beyond their own borders should, you know, think about reading Rivals. I mean, it's not a difficult book to get through, but it is of special interest, I would say, to business people who either have to cooperate or compete with the three Asian giants.
So what's the verdict? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
David, I would give it sort of 1.5 thumbs up. Great subject, decent analysis. The historical perspective, I think, is excellent. But, you know, a guy at The Economist for 26 years can't break out of that dry as dust economist writing style.
Great insights, Michael. Thanks as always.
Thank you, David.